And if you were to ask the disciples later on, if you were to ask them, when was the scariest time in your life? When was the time where you were most fearful? I think they would have pointed back to these 3 days. These 3 days after Jesus was crucified. It was terrifying to not know what was to come and to feel like all hope was lost. And sometimes we can feel that way in our lives as well, when we don't have the presence of God, when we feel abandoned. You got your own things that you're dealing with, and it just often feels that way. But listen, if you were to ask those same guys, let's fast forward the tape 20, 30 years, and we know what they did and how they changed the world and how their life ended and they gave their life for their faith. But if you were to ask them 20, 30 years after that, not when was the scariest time of your life, but when was God most at work in your life? I'm willing to bet that they would also have pointed back to those 3 days after Jesus was crucified. And I think the same is true in our lives as well. It's often in those scariest of times, those most uncertain of times, when our heart is full of fear, when our heart is full of anxiety, and our heart is just full of worry, that God is at most at work in our life. And you might say, well, those are the days that I was the most scared. Those are the days I had the most fear in my heart. But yes, it also doubled as the time where God was most often at work.